Hello, everyone. My name is Albie Mendoza. I'm in the Department of Psychology. I'm an assistant professor here at the Wesley College of Health and Behavioral Sciences in downtown DSU. And today's topic, we're going to talk about dating, engaged, or married, students' relationships with their courses. So I got this idea because we're always talking about student engagement. And we want to make sure that they are paying attention to us and we're paying attention to them, etc. But are we dateable as teachers? And are our students dateable? All right. So I just want to make it known that this is not a workshop about dating students. Okay. That is not in our CBA or ethics or anything like that. This is how our courses are like a long-term marriage with our students. Okay. Just wanted to get that really clear. So our objectives today in the time that we have, we're going to discuss how showing up for the first day of class is like dating. Being in the first class and even in the first week is like proposing to our students. And then how staying in a class is like being married to them. And hopefully at the end of this, you're going to take away some evidence-based strategies to keep you and your students interested and committed in your relationship. And a lot of these evidence-based strategies come from this book called Inclusive Teaching, Strategies for Promoting Equity in the College Classroom by Hogan and Safi. And I learned about that resource from the Association of College and University Educators AQ course, which was done through the Center for Teaching and Learning. So I want to start with the dating stage and have some audience participation and talk about this topic. When it comes to dating, whether you're single, married, divorced, in a relationship right now, think about when you started dating, or if you're dating right now, think about dating in 2023. What is important to consider? So either on the chat or if you want to talk about it, I'm going to give you 30 seconds though to think about your answer, and then we'll discuss. All right, so here's the timer for 30 seconds. All right, bring. That is the time. I'm gonna still share my screen, but I'm gonna make it a little bit lower so I can type in. Whoop. Let me see if I can type in. There we go. All right, so somebody here said honesty. Somebody said integrity. What else is important for dating? Yes, I'm gonna type that in. Personality, so that when you send this out, CTL, they know what our audience had said, right? Anyone else? Honesty, integrity, personality, background, goals. You need to have some sort of alignment. Yes? Yes, I'm getting some nods there. Perfect. Let me put this back up. Awesome. All right. So honesty, integrity, personality. Are you a good match? What their background is it a good match and aligns with yours? Their own character, right? That honesty and integrity, and then their goals. Where do they see themselves going in life? Awesome. We're going to break it down to even basic foundations. Who are you dating? What are you going to do on a date? Where are you going on the date? When is the date? Why are you dating this person? And then how are you going to move forward in the relationship? And we're going to start with this how. All right. So first off, again, we're conceptualizing our first class as the date of when we're going to first meet our students. And so how did students get the date in the first place? Was it their choice? So I teach Introduction to Psychology, which is a lot of first semester freshmen, most of them. There are also seniors and juniors and sophomores in there. And oftentimes those upperclassmen are taking that class by choice. They heard it from a friend, or they heard from their professor, this is a great class to be an elective, and they join that class. They want to be on that date, and it's their choice. Other times they're set up from their academic advisor, or it's their major, and so they're automatically put into that date, into that class. And so they're on a blind date. And then essentially when they get to a certain point, they're in an arranged marriage because they didn't choose to be in that relationship in the first place. All right, so before the date, and again, we're conceptualizing the date as the first class where we're gonna meet them, okay? Just like you would in a date. What are you gonna do before the date? You want to get the logistics right. And when I mean logistics, where are you going? How are you getting there? What time are you meeting on the date? What are you doing on the date? This blurry slide, I thought it was a little bit clearer, so apologies for that, but this is an example of a welcome email that I send to my classes to let them know the information on our date. So some of the things that we're gonna include in this welcome email is who are they dating? And there are essentially two entities that students are dating when they are building a relationship and they're in a class. One of them is the course, right? The entity is the course. They're dating the course. Are they interested in the course? What do they know about the course? How can they be successful in their relationship with the course? So I give them this infographic about the class. This is a course description. I also give a picture of the textbook, some supports for success, and some fun facts to, again, get them interested, right? So if we are likening the course to dating, you want to get them interested in you, whoever they're dating. The other entity that they're dating is the professor, right? So whether it's me or another of my colleagues, but they want to know who they are going to be in this relationship with. So I also send them in that welcome email an infographic about my office hours, my email, who I am, my educational background, and some fun facts about me so that I get them interested in what they're going to be learning, but also who's going to be teaching them. Okay, so first steps to being on the date. Who are you dating? The next is, where are we going on our date? So if it's an in-person class, which is the majority of the classes I teach, I want to give them very, very clear directions on where it is that they're going on our date. So I give them a map. I put a link in there in the welcome message, and I teach all my courses this semester in Cannon Hall, which is in the downtown DSU campus. And so I emphasize downtown DSU because a lot of them don't know how to get to downtown. So I also include as part of my communication, not only where we are going to have the date, but how they're going to get there. So these are screenshots from DSU Hub. And then if they didn't know this information, this is where they're going to find the 2023-2024 shuttle schedule. And so for all of them who need to get to my class, they need to know how to get there. So I give them that information. All right. And then this slide is what we're going to do on the date. So what we're going to do throughout the whole week is letting them know that you need to be engaged with each other, that we're going to talk about the syllabus, that we're going to start on assignment 1, that we're going to create a weekly schedule. So just like in dating, you want to know who you're dating, where you're going, what time you're going to be there, what to prepare for, right? And what you're going to do on the date. Okay. Now, what do we do during the date? So now you've given them information. Hopefully they've shown up on the date. They're in your class. What are we doing during the date? Again, you're going to give them an infographic. You're going to, I put this slide up in the first day of class, the second day of class, the third day, all the way up until add drop period, because I want them to know exactly what class that they're stepping into once they get to the room. And so we're going to emphasize, again, those fun facts, the supports, and we're going to talk about these different aspects. I also want to get to know them, and I want them to get to know the course. And so we talk about the learning objectives for the course. So if they decide to date me and to be engaged to me and to be married to the course, right? Again, we're dating so that we can be engaged, so that we can be married throughout these next 16 weeks. I want to let them know what they're going to get as a result, as the outcome. So this is kind of working with the end in mind. What kinds of assessments are we going to do? What kinds of activities are we going to do so that they get towards these learning objectives for the course? Okay. Then I reintroduce myself in case they weren't paying attention the first time, right? Or they lost that communication. And then we emphasize the fun facts. I even bring my kickboxing gloves to the first class to show them that these are some of the things. that I do to get them, again, interested, right? I want to make myself dateable. I want to keep them interested and committed in the relationship. And then vice versa, I want to know about them. So something that we do in our first day of class on our date is to have them fill out an index card with their name, right? First name and last name, their preferred pronouns, their preferred name, and then a little picture of themselves. And this prompt about drawing a picture eases the tension of the room so much. So they come in, right when you're on a date, you're kind of nervous, you want to make the best impression, and you're kind of like a little bit stressed, a little bit tense. When I ask them to draw a picture, that's when they can kind of calm down a little bit, get loose. They know that they can get silly, show a little other side of themselves so that they're comfortable in the date. And then I want to also make sure that when you're on a date and you're dating a person, right, you want to say their name correctly. So I asked them to write their first name and last name with a phonetic spelling or rhyming word. So my name is Albie, rhymes with Palby, like I'm going to be your pal for the semester. And my last name is Mendoza. And I break it down for them, Mendoza, so that they know how to say my name, because my preferred name is Dr. Mendoza. And then I asked them, just like I shared my 3 fun facts with them, I want them to share their 3 fun facts that they don't mind sharing to the class. And then, as apropos as our talk is about dating, we actually do a speed dating activity in the first day of class. We go to the hallway, we make 2 lines, and then they're going to talk to each other about 1, 2, or 3 of their fun facts for a minute, and then we do this 3 times, and I'll show you a picture of that activity. This is what that looks like. So they have their 3 fun cards, 3 fun facts written on their index cards. You can see them on the left side, and they're doing their interaction one-on-one together, right? It's a speed dating because I only give them a minute, and then we actually take 1 line, move down until they have another person that they can interact with. And we do this 3 times. And then the picture on the right shows them showing their different cards after the activity. And this is what the cards look like up close. You can see on the left side, these are their 3 fun facts. So some examples that I pulled, they could talk about their zodiac sign. They could talk about their jobs, about their favorite color. One of them said they were born with 12 fingers. And on the other side, their drawings and their preferred names, right? So Mackenzie, Katrina is their first name and last name. They go by her and she. And then we're going to call her Mac because that's her preferred name. So just like you would on a date, you want to get to know the other person. You want to call them what they want to be called. And here is an example of why doing this activity is important. You can see from the picture that I have put everyone's preferred name on the front of these folders. And I asked them to put the folders and display the folders on their desk so that I know their names, but also their classmates know their names as well. Alrighty, so now we've talked about what to do and prepare before the date. We talked about what to do during the date when you're getting to know each other. And now after the date, as the class time runs out, what do we do so that they want to come back to the next class? And here I give them an example of my weekly schedule. This is actually hanging outside my office door. This looks familiar to all of you because it's your office hour schedule and your class schedule so that people know where you are. And I asked them to do the same thing. I asked them to make their own schedule. So I have a blank sheet of this and I give it to them. And I ask them to reflect on these questions as they work on their own weekly schedule. Right? When are you going to do assignments, not only for my class, but for other classes? When will you have time to read? What will you accomplish at these times? Where are you going to work? Downtown campus, main campus, in your dorm, in the library? Who can hold you accountable for completing these tasks? And then when are they going to eat? And when are they going to take the shuttle? When are you working out all these logistics so that they come to our dates time? All right. So we talked about how the first class may be a date, right? When do you propose to them? At what point in your relationship do you propose to the students? Because we're talking about student engagement. So before you can get engaged, right, you have to date them. Now we want to propose to them. I am arguing that the syllabus is going to be your ring. like I have my wedding ring here, right? So somebody proposes to you, like, will you marry me? This is your syllabus is kind of like your marriage contract, your marriage vow. And so when you're on a date, right? When you're dating someone and you're getting to that point of proposal, you want to include them in those conversations. People said that they talk about their goals, right? And they talk about having integrity and honesty. Well, let's have a conversation, an honest conversation, and also talk about the goals that you want in the class and the goals that I want in the class. And so we do a think, pair, share activity in the first week of the course to talk about what syllabus information is helpful to them, right? To the persons that I'm dating. And for my class, this is what they came up with. It's a very big list. A lot of them is already what's standard in our syllabi. Office hours are there. They want to know what late work policies are there. They want to know if you're late to class, what happens, etc. But interestingly, they also pointed out, when do we expect things from you? So, right, like on our point of view as faculty and as staff members who teach, we want to know when they are going to do their work, right? We have deadlines for them. We have a course calendar. But as students, and if you're making yourself dateable, it's a reciprocal exchange. They want to know when to expect their grades, and they want to know when to expect you to email them. And they also want to know when they're going to have feedback for their certain assessments. And that is absolutely fair, right? Fair game in terms of what should be in the syllabus. Another aspect of the syllabus, especially if you're proposing, right? You want to know what will keep them in the relationship. So we have a conversation of what behaviors they believe that will distract them or disengage them in the classroom from me, their teacher, from their peers, their classmates, and even from themselves. So we have a conversation. Well, I want you and you want you to be successful in this marriage that we have, right? Which is the course. How can we keep you engaged the entire time? And then on top of that, what will disengage you, right? So what not to do. So the first part of this activity is what not to do in the classroom. And these are some of their answers that we talked about in my Monday, Wednesday, Friday class. And again, I teach other sections, but I want to just share my one section here. And they came up with having phones be distracting. That's not something that I shared, right? They had time to go and think and pair and share. And so loud sidebars for other people talking, having phones beeping is something that will distract them in learning. So I thought that was very interesting because that's not something that I came up with. That's what the students came up with. And then the second part of this activity is what would engage you, right? So if you are going to be here and we're going to be married for the whole semester, what will keep you interested in this relationship? And these are their answers. They talked about student engagement. They talked about having follow-along worksheets. So some concrete, real steps for the teacher, me, to let them to keep in mind, to keep them engaged, but also they also want to be engaged. They want to have hands-on work. They want to work together in the class. And so they want to be in charge of their own learning. That came up as part of our conversations. And so when all of that is incorporated into the syllabus, hopefully this is the product, right? This is the ring that I'm giving them. And hopefully they say yes to that proposal. Okay. So we've proposed, we have dated, we have proposed to each other, and now we're in the marrying stage. So let me have a caveat here before we move on. In the marrying stage, this is when the students have not dropped your class, right? Because if they say no to your proposal, which is the syllabus, they don't like your policies, or it's too much work, or they have too much on their plate, they're going to drop the class. They're going to say no to the proposal. So now from here on out, I want to have the kind of thought that these are the students who are wanting to marry us, who said yes to our proposal, said yes to the syllabus, and also how do we keep them engaged throughout the entire semester. All right, so now a little bit of participation from you, and I think we have a couple more people who added. When it comes to a successful marriage, what is important to consider? So I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to think about this, and then we'll discuss as a group. All right, so 30 seconds to answer this question. All right, there's the alarm. Bring, bring, bring. Okay, I'm going to give you some time here. Let me see what I see in the chat here. So when it comes to successful marriage, what is important to consider? Great. So we have some things here. Communication. Am I spelling that correctly? Shared goals. We've got teamwork. We've got space to have autonomy. Great. Another person said other views and other perspectives. Not always correct. Awesome. All right. Anyone else? What is it when it comes to successful marriage? What is important to consider? Anyone else before I move on? All right. Excellent. Okay. Thank you so much for sharing your views here. Let me put this up. All right. Great. So I am going to incorporate a lot of your answers into our next topic of conversation, which is in a successful marriage, it may be helpful to think about your partner's love language. I can't see a raise of hands here, but if we were in a real class, I might ask, who here has heard of love languages? Right? So, yes, okay, so people raising their hand, great. So, love language. Since we're in a marriage, you as the professor are married to your students are married to you. How do we convey our care for their learning throughout the semester? And these are different love languages that we can incorporate in our teaching philosophies. Okay, so I also want to remember the caveat is you're not actually dating your students, right? So physical touch here, please, needs to be professional, okay? No cuddling of students. However, a lot of these love languages play a part in how we teach. So for example, words of confirmation. You as a professor can encourage and appreciate and listen actively to when your students have concerns, when they have questions, and then also when you're giving feedback, instead of providing them with negative feedback right away, maybe giving them an encouragement of what they did right. So thank you so much for submitting your work on time. However, you are missing these different parts of the assignment. In the future, please make sure that you read all of the instructions. But again, thank you so much for making the effort to start the assignment in the first place. Another thing that you could do, we have an EAB Navigate as a tool. There is a feature there that you can send early alerts, right? If they're doing something that may not be great for their learning, but there's also a kudos button there where for people who are doing exactly what they're supposed to do, everyone's good, you can send them praise. So that's an example that we can utilize as professors to give words of affirmation to our students. Physical touch. So again, no cuddling or kissing, right, with our students. But if you're an in-person class, you can ask them for a fist bump. You can ask them for a high five. You can walk around and just maybe even have a close proximity to them instead of being in the front of the room the entire time, so that they know that you are showing care for their learning by being close to them and having that one-on-one kind of eye contact and also that closeness, close proximity. So here, receiving gifts. So your thoughtfulness, making your students a priority, and an action to take there is giving thoughtful gifts or gestures and expressing gratitude when receiving gifts. So a gift that we can provide is extra credit. We can also give them some extra time during class to do their work if we have that time, so that we understand, right? We want to be thoughtful about their time and we want to give them this gift of extra credit or extra time. Speaking of time, quality time with our students is really appreciated. That uninterrupted and focused conversation, which is one-on-one. So maybe if you get to class early, which is a struggle for me because I'm always go, 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 but I have time after class. We talk to students, maybe a small group of them, maybe one-on-one. They want to talk before or after class. I also encourage them to come to office hours or walk with them to their next class, or them walk with me to my office, so that we're having a one-on-one conversation. Another love language that professors can keep in mind is acts of service. We let them know, our students know, that we want to help them. We want to lighten their load, either by going out of their way to help them with their course load. So something that we can do, right? If they're going to miss a class, we have in-person classes, we give them alternate ways for handouts. So instead of just having hard copies for everybody, maybe you put up that hard copy digitally on Blackboard as well, right? So lightening their load if they weren't there for class, or if they can't get to the next class to get the handout, they have it available for them on Blackboard. Okay. So I took a love languages assessment in preparation for this talk. And I realized, I really thought that my biggest one was receiving gifts, because I love me a good present. However, when I was doing the assessment, my highest score was in words of affirmation. I find it meaningful when people compliment me, when people acknowledge that I'm doing a good job, when people recognize that I'm doing good work. And my second highest was acts of service. And so I thought, well, oh my goodness, well, that's great, because it's telling me what kind of spouse I am, and what kind of mother I am, but also what kind of teacher may be helpful for me to be. Okay? So, and I noticed that I actually do engage in acts of service and words of affirmation in my courses. Here is an example of a words of affirmation that I give to my students. Every week after we're done a specific week, I give them an email to get them ready for the next week. So we are in week 4 of a 16-week semester. This was an email I sent to them on Sunday. We're done with week 3. So I said, hooray, yippee, we're done with week 3. And I also give them a thank you. Thank you so much for coming to class this past week and learning about the following questions. And then I give them this picture of what we did in class, and I give them the slides from the previous week, so that if anyone missed class, they have that information on hand. Words of affirmation. I also do a lot of acts of service, as I think most of us do. We give them handouts. We give them time to complete different assignments. I provide skeletal outlines. This is a practice that I got from this inclusive teaching book, and also from my AQ course. I give them skeletal outlines that have the objectives of the week that we are doing, and also I'll fill in the blanks for the notes, because I find that a lot of students have a hard time getting all the notes down, especially in as a text-heavy, a vocabulary-heavy course, psychology, especially in the brain systems. So this is a practice that I've implemented just this semester, and it's helping a class participation, it's helping class attendance, and it's also relieving the stress from the students. Again, active service, lightening their load. And their load here being copying down all the notes. So unfortunately, as I was looking at the love languages, it is known in the psychology literature that love languages itself came about from a pastor. Gary Chapman is a pastor. And a lot of the work on love languages is not evidence-based. So love languages itself is not evidence-based, but the idea behind it is rooted in psychological science. And that comes from positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement, as well as positive punishment and negative punishment. So what we're really doing when we're expressing our love languages in the classroom through acts of service, through quality time, through words of affirmation, is giving them positive reinforcement or negative reinforcement. Positive reinforcement, really briefly, is when the students' behavior continue to be strengthened. They continue to come to class, they continue to be engaged, they continue to participate because you're giving them something good. And then negative reinforcement is the same idea. They continue to come to class, they continue to be engaged, they continue to do their work because you're taking away something bad or aversive. So in my classes, I give them what are called confidence coupons. And this is based on the love languages and also the science behind the love languages of acts of service when I lighten their load, and I give them reinforcement. So for example, when they have a quiz, and sometimes the Wi-Fi isn't working, or they press the wrong button and they completely get out of the quiz, I give them one quiz retake or one quiz reopening, and that's a form of positive reinforcement because they attempted to do the quiz. So it's not like they're not doing anything, but it was a situation outside of their control. They couldn't finish it. So I give them that positive reinforcement. Keep doing what you're doing, keep doing the quizzes. And this is a way for you to not worry about a Wi-Fi outage or a wrong button outage to affect your grade. Dropping an assignment and a quiz is an example of negative reinforcement. You're taking away something aversive, them doing the assignment, and then hopefully, right, the purpose there is to have them do other assignments in the future. An assignment extension, a quiz extension, and a project extension are all examples of positive reinforcement. They're going to do the work, but you're giving them extra time to do so. And then having a bank of days absence will get them to have negative reinforcement, right? You're taking away something aversive, them going to class, and then you're giving them a free bank. You don't have to explain it. They don't have documentation, etc. And then they can use it however they would like, so that they don't have to go to class. And hopefully that will keep them coming to class, keep them doing their work because they know they have this bank as kind of like a grace period, like a grace bank, right? Giving them grace for not wanting to come to class. All right, so now we get to the portion here where the Backstreet Boys make an appearance. And I like to call this portion the tell me why, which is, why are we doing all of these different things? Why are we taking the time to go and do acts of service, to go and do quality time with our students, to do words of affirmation? So one part of it is because it is part of our strategic goals for the college. This is a handout for academic excellence as part of the REACH 2026 strategic plan. And you can see here that under student learning outcomes, under relevant learning objectives, culture of teaching excellence, student learning outcomes, continuous improvement model, that a lot of our key goals and action items is to make sure that we have increased rates of retention, increased rates of persistence, decreased rates of DFWs, right? So that we have increased graduation for our students. And one of these here, 2.3, student learning outcomes, improve student learning outcomes through engaging classroom and experiential learning opportunities. One of those experiential learning opportunities was held through CTL and through other committees, teaching effectiveness committees throughout the college that emphasize experiential learning. This graphic right here, I'm going like this, on the left side is from Kolb's experiential learning theory that I have used as a framework to change how I include students in my teaching. And in the psychology literature, we also have the skillful psychology student, which are emphasizing career skills, cognitive skills, communication skills, personal skills, social skills, and technological skills that students who take psychology classes, not just the psychology student, but students who take psychology classes, what are the skills that will get them prepared for success in the 21st century workplace? So some examples in the next slides that I'd like to showcase is how to integrate the experiential learning theory and also this hard skills and soft skills, career skills into the classroom. So one of the ways that I've incorporated this concrete experience with reflective observation in my classes, as well as helping students with their personal skills and their cognitive skills, is through giving them self-assessments. In a psychology class, we do a lot of reflection. We have the overarching theme of why do I do what I do? And so how do we know what students do? Is we ask them by taking these surveys. One example of this is the values assessment worksheet. What are the values that they have? What are the things that they find meaning? What are the things that they look for in a potential career? So you can see it filled out here by a student. And then another experiential learning activity that we do, we talk about emotional intelligence, and what the students are holding up on the right side of your screen here, that picture, are emotions cards. So a lot of the emotions can be positive, so such as kindness, calmness, happiness, satisfaction, and some of the emotions are also negative, like frustration, sadness, inferiority. And students in this particular demonstration or activity, we do it kind of like the speed dating. Everybody gets a card, they reflect on the card, and then they talk about it with a partner, their answers to the card. getting that experiential learning, right? They have a concrete experience, they're reflecting on their experience, and then we use that conceptualization stage and experimentation stage to tie it back to concepts in the course. All right, other things that will help with their experiential learning and also utilize their skills is having videos in class. They have a concrete experience. You can see them writing things down. They're working on their communication skills. And this particular video is of Phineas Gage. And we talk about then what happened to him, what would happen if he was alive now in modern day America and the healthcare system that we have, and also how this relates to the frontal lobe and prefrontal cortex. We related all the concepts in the class. Another experiential learning example here is by leveraging different I guess holidays or observances throughout the year. So last Friday was International Dot Day, and it's all about making your mark in the world, understanding your differences, and making sure that you know to look at challenges with resilience and with positivity. And so my different classes made their own dots in groups. They talked about their talents. What are your talents? What do we have in common? What makes you smile? How have you made your marks? And then they actually created dots together as a group. And they're going to showcase those dots and present their dots. So they're working on those skills, right? Collaboration, teamwork, as well as those oral communication skills when they present them. And this is just a larger picture of my students during Dot Day. And this is a special picture because we also took a field trip in this picture. We went to the Charlton classrooms, which is located here in downtown DSU. And the Charlton School partners with us at DSU by renting out the bottom of the college center for their classrooms. These are students with disabilities, ages 18 to 22, so the same age as our college students. But here in this inclusion opportunity, they work together to create their dots and also talk about how they made their marks and what they have in common. All right, so now we're getting to the presentation, the part of the presentation where what do we do if our marriage needs more help? So for our students, right, because it's a two-way street, not only should they get some help in counseling if they need it, but also us as their professors, we need to get some help if we need it. So support for our students. There are tutors available. There are supplemental and supplemental instruction leaders available. And I actually have one in my introduction to psychology class, and she has been a blessing because all of those different questions that some of us were talking about in the beginning, how to get on Blackboard, how do you upload things on Blackboard, where do you find things on Blackboard? I've been able to refer the students to her because she has taken my class and she knows how to upload and she knows how to utilize Blackboard. So if the marriage needs help on their end, they can go to tutoring, they can go to a peer counselor, a peer mentor, a staff counselor, their academic advisors, and a new tool that DSU has purchased is Circle In, where they can talk to each other, as well as our SI leader in Circle In is another way to have social communication outside the classroom. Now, on the other end, what if we need help, right? What if we need help in our marriage? We're getting burnt out, we're getting frustrated. We also have Circle In to go and communicate with them after class. We can talk to their academic advisors. All right, I know that you put this student in my class, but they don't even have the prereq. We need to see what else would be a good fit for them. We can talk to our department chair, our department colleagues. If we need help with different strategies and resources to help different types of students, we can talk to the CTL staff, the ODELT staff, especially for IT problems. So again, in the marriage, there are two parties. What can both parties be doing to make it successful? All right, and then I know that this marriage is going to end. That's how that's going to be, right? At the end of 16 weeks, they're going to leave us and they're going to date other people. And for some of our students, they might transfer out to another four-year institution. They might be ready to go to graduate school, or for some of them, they want to leave DSU altogether and participate in a gap year after they graduate. They want to explore their career and realize that college isn't for them, or they want to go into the job market right away. So wherever they're going to go next, all the skills that we've taught them, right? That oral communication skills, those cognitive, those social skills, those personal skills are going to help them when they're going to go to their next date, right? Their next class, their next course. And then as a takeaway with our time together, what do we need to consider for a better relationship with our students? Because we want this marriage to last until the 16 weeks is over, right? So some kind of take-home questions for us. What makes students dating or marriage material? What do we want from them? What do we expect from them? We talked about honesty. We talked about integrity, right? Especially academic integrity in the age of AI, right? We also want to make sure that their goals are matching our goals. They want an A, great. We're going to tell them how to get an A. They want a B, great. We're going to tell them how to get a B, right? And then we also want to keep in mind what makes us as their professors interesting. What makes us dating material or marriage material? Do they want to be in a long-term relationship with us until these 16 weeks? And then what makes your course dating or marriage material? Are you making it interesting, right? You want, exactly, somebody said in the chat, student professor commitment to each other so that this entire relationship can be successful at the end of these 16 weeks. And for you, if you're teaching accelerated, you're like in a whirlwind marriage, right? You are dating super fast, you're proposing super fast, and then you're going to be done in 8 weeks, half the time that in-person 16-week classes would be have their time for. And then also these last two questions, how do students demonstrate that they care about their learning? And they're going to showcase their love languages as well, right? Do they have quality time with their course? Do they have words of affirmation to you as their professor? I really learned a lot in class today. Thank you so much for emphasizing that point. Or I really feel like you heard me when I raised my concern, right? So how are they showing their love languages about their learning? And in the same vein, how are we using positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement? How are we demonstrating that we care about our students' learning through our love languages, right? Through our negative reinforcement and positive reinforcement of their learning. If you want more information about these different topics, these references are available. I think I can make my slides shareable. And also I'm going to give this presentation to the CTL so that you can access these different resources. But I have Kolb's reading in there. I have the notation, the reference for the inclusive teaching book. I also have the skillful psychology, a PDF available as well. All right, I think we have about 10 minutes and I want to do an activity if we could. Because as I was doing research for this presentation, I came across dating terms that I was never familiar with, but I kind of want to see if you guys are familiar with it. Is that okay to do?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
Perfect. Okay. So if you have any questions, comments, and concerns, please reach out to me. I'll pull this up after we do our dating terms activity. Okay. All right. Has anyone heard of breadcrumbing? I have not heard of breadcrumbing. Breadcrumbing is when someone you'd like to have a relationship with leads you on just enough to keep you in their life without a solid commitment. In a sentence, Sally hadn't heard from Kyle for weeks, not our Kyle, okay? This is a different Kyle, this is their example. But then he breadcrumbed her with a last minute date, okay? Yes, Vilma, no problem. I will definitely share my slides. So how would this play out in our courses? Have we been breadcrumbed before? I've definitely been breadcrumbed. Yes, right? So silence, especially in this add drop period. I had a student, didn't come at all, in-person class, okay? Didn't come at all. They've emailed me, right? They like, I want to be in your class. They emailed me, I want to be in your class, but not showing up for our date. And then guess what? Add drop, the due date for add drop is this past Monday. Not today, not this Monday, but the last Monday, they showed up in class, right? They breadcrumbed me, okay? So that does happen. All right, that's breadcrumbing. Another one here. Who has heard of fizzling? Fizzling, like a okay, Amber has. Fizzling, or slowly creating distance in a relationship until you no longer communicate, has long existed in dating, but now it comes with a fresh new term. So in a sentence, I don't want to have an uncomfortable conversation with Jessie, so I'm going to let our relationship fizzle until she gets the message, right? How would this play out in our courses? Yes, I have been fizzled as a professor, right? So students are awesome at midterm time. They come into class, they're responding to emails, and then after midterm, I don't know, they just fizzle, right? So that's a term, they fizzle out, and then they do the final, but we haven't communicated, right? So that's fizzling. All right, and the last one I have here, submarining. Who's heard of submarining? This I've not heard of. Okay, submarining is when a match suddenly stops communication, then reappears months later. In a sentence, if Greg submarines me one more time, I'm cutting him off for good, right? How would this play out in our courses? This happens a lot. Yes, this happens a lot. I see some smiles. So they stop communication, right? Nothing, no work has been done, but then come finals week, what do I need to do to get an A in this class, right? Nothing has happened since the beginning of the semester, but then submarining. All right, I am going to put up my information. That's all the terms that I have, but we might have time for some question answer. If you guys have any questions or answers for me.
Dr. Mendoza. Oh, there's a question in the chat, but when you answer that, I have a question for you.
I love it. Great. Okay. So let's go back to this. Yeah. So how do you deal with submarining? Oh my gosh, that's a great question. So, okay. I didn't anticipate that people are going to ask me how to solve their issues. Okay. But this is a great question, Vilma. Okay. So when I deal with students, right, when they
Sorry, Arby, but sometimes I had students like that.
Absolutely. I think a lot of us have. Yes, a lot of us have. Thank you for that question. So when I deal with students who come up at finals, I tell them, or depending on how, like if it's already finals, like the last day of finals, we can't do anything, right? We can't do anything. So I tell them, these are all the things that you need to get a grade. You have until this date to do it. But then after that, that's it. That's the end of the semester. So that's one way. One option is give them time to deal with all the work that they've missed, right? So give them time to deal with it. Another option that I've had before, depending on their circumstances, we've had to do an incomplete. I don't like to do it because it's under extraordinary circumstances, but it's not until later on in the semester that they come out and come clean and talk to me about why they have missed that work. And so it's very extraordinary circumstances, but I've also have given the option of incomplete before. But typically when it's submarining and they were participating and then they haven't, and they contact me during finals week, I tell them you have until this long to complete the work, and then that's it. That's all that I can do for you. Thank you for that question. Great. Does anyone else want to answer? How do you guys deal with submarining? So either nobody knows either, right? Or they don't want to tell us their secret.
I have a new policy that students can turn in anything until the last day of class. So if it's like near for like partial credit. So if it's near the last week of class and they're panicking, like, oh my gosh, I have 1,000 excuses, and instead of trying to figure out whose excuse is valid, I just say, no problem. You have until, and it's like literally the last day of class. And that's what I put in the syllabus. I try to stick to it. You may turn in stuff until this day, 1:59 on the last day of class. If they contact me after the last day of class, I'm like, I'm really sorry, but the last day passed. Sometimes people do pop up like very, very end of the finals week.
Oh, absolutely.
So that's one way that I do it. I just say, okay, but here's the deadline.
Correct.
And some students have like gotten a lot of work done and somehow scraped their C, and others tried, but sometimes you're just so far behind, you're not going to catch up. So I give them the opportunity, but I know sometimes you can look and you already know they're not going to pass.
Absolutely. Yes. No, Kara, I do the same thing. I give them an opportunity because they're willing to do the work. That's no problem. Even though it takes a lot of effort from us on the back end to grade everything backwards, right? Because we're all done with it. But I've given that deadline as well, right? Anything in the semester that you have missed, please make sure that you complete it by this date. I also find, I'm going to go back to this slide. I've done this a couple of times. This has also helped them keep track. These confidence coupons, has helped them keep track, because sometimes they just use the extension, or they have it dropped. So that has helped a lot with keeping them, meeting the deadlines. So yeah, but do people still submarine? Yes, they do. Oh, absolutely. Alrighty. Any other comments, questions, or concerns? Thank you guys for your participation. Oh, Amber had one. Sorry, Amber.
Yes.
Go ahead.
I do. Thank you for this great workshop, Dr. Mendoza. How did you come up with the whole dating, engaged, and married concept and relating it to your courses or into the classroom? Because those are terms that the students may not really be familiar with. So how did you how are you able to tie all of that together?
Great. I think it came about when we talked in the data assessment summit for all, so we presented data on the data assessment summit about engagement. And a lot of what we do is engaging students, right? And I was, me and my husband were talking about it because he's an academic advisor. And we were talking about it when my parents were over one afternoon, it was sometime. But then my dad, who's Filipino, like me, because he's my dad. And so he like just kept hearing the word engaged, and he asked who got married. And so I was like, oh no, like student engagement, like they need to be coming to class and they need to be, like paying attention. He was like, oh, okay, well, it's like a marriage, like, you're engaged and you're like, you have to like who you are going to be married to. And so that's where the idea came about. So kind of like, yeah, are we dateable as professors, right? Would people want to date us? Are our courses dateable? Are our slides dateable, right? Are our content dateable? And then also, are our students dateable, right? So we have to have those conversations about expectations on both ends.
Thank you for that.
Absolutely. And then when I started thinking about like engagement, proposal, marriage, that's when the love languages came about. And it got me thinking like, oh, how do we show that we care about their learning through these different love languages? So now having this kind of framework in mind, I'm like, oh yeah, I do give them a lot of our acts of service. I need to do more words of affirmation, right? Because I tend to be very much like in my feedback, I'm very like, oh, you're missing a citation here, you're missing a definition here. Now that words of affirmation is my love language, I'm like, oh yeah, I see your effort. Thank you for doing it on time. However, you're missing some key words, right? So I've been a little bit more encouraging in my feedback. So this helped me acknowledge like what areas I'm going to work at in terms of my successful marriage with my students.
It was very good. I thought they got a lot of good ideas. I like seeing what other people are doing in their classrooms. So great ideas.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And Kara, you're in the teaching effectiveness committee, so that means a lot. And we did the experiential learning together as well over the summer. We went to different workshops. So there's a lot of different opportunities that CTL provides, a lot of opportunities the Teaching Effectiveness Committee provides. So it's been great as a faculty member from Wesley College, who's in downtown, right? I'm not in main campus a lot, that we are able to do this virtually. And so many events and activities are happening through CTL, through that committee, through ODEL, all different kinds of training. Thank you guys for what you do.